reconciliation, peacemaking. If we are peaceful people, then everything will be fine. No fighting, even, you know, in our families, in our spaces, everywhere where we are. Zimbabweans have to reconcile. We can't expect a government to reconcile people when we as individuals, whenever we meet, it's war. So everything else, I think you have covered, especially what Mukoma Champion spoke about, where we were enlightened of the laws and how looted things can be sent back to Zimbabwe. And we also said there in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of looting going on, where you find an individual having 20 farms and others have nothing, or somebody possessing the whole region. So I think that's what I can say about last week. And we said, whoever is coming in, whichever government is coming in, we are sick and tired of fights. So we want people to be reconciled and to be peaceful. Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Maifa. This is as far as the last topic is concerned. But quickly going to the news that we had in Zimbabwe, I think we have had a situation in which the news that was spread like wildfire in our country had much to do with this issue of the conviction and the sentencing of one of the political leadership in Zimbabwe, in Jacob Ngarivume. So we had a situation in which he was convicted to 4 years, and the case everybody knows, and it happened in 2020. So these are some of the issues, especially to do with the news. Dr. Maifa, I would want to come to you quickly in order for us to go to our topic today. If you have got anything that you have got to share as far as Zimbabwe's news is concerned.
Yes, like you said, the imprisonment of Jacob Mngarivume is part of the news that hit Zimbabwe. We also lost one of our fellow Zimbabweans, the son to our former vice president, Comrade Mzenda. So it's a sad loss. Any loss of life is not good for anybody. So it's really sad to note that. Otherwise, we also noted that there's continual persecution of opposition leaders. Some were given bail conditions in Chivi, but you find the people being sent to Mashingo prison. So much confusion. So we just hope that it's going to be a peaceful election. But those pointers don't really sound good. Back to you, host.
Yes, we don't want to just be Denford and Dr. Maifa speaking here, but it was just an introductory courtesy statements that we had to do. But let's go to our topic. Before we go to our topic, for those people who haven't been here, we said this is a space for Zimbabweans who have got to deliberate for the future of Zimbabwe. And I would want to insist that for the future of Zimbabwe, which has been ruined by the regime for the past 43 years, and we want to map the way forward for our beloved Zimbabwe. And I would also want to take this opportunity to say, as we are speaking, deliberating about our country, Zimbabwe, we are not going to be entertaining any people who are concentrating much on personality issues. We won't be entertaining people who are going to propagate non-existent things. We are not going to be condoning people who are going to also propagate or speak about non-existent issues. So this is the opportunity for Zimbabweans to speak things that are valuable issues that can make Zimbabwe come right. Everybody's given or accorded an opportunity to speak, and it is the prerogative of the host, co-host, to, when they identify that these people are not speaking, especially to do with our code of conduct, definitely will either mute you, and if you realize that you insist speaking things that are non-existent, and then we'll all have to make sure that you are going to be moved out of the speakers. But otherwise, this is an opportunity. Now going to our topic. Our topic is the 2023 election without electoral reforms again. What are Zimbabweans' thoughts in as far as that is concerned? This we brought about this topic in recognition of what is happening in our country, and in recognition of what has been happening in our country from 2000 up to today. We have had disputed elections, we have had contested elections. Why? Because we have had a situation in which the institutions that are in place have not been doing their job, or the job that has got to be done in as far as running credible elections are concerned. We also have realized that in as much as in Zimbabwe we can do as much we can to make sure that we realign ourselves into what is supposed to be credible elections, but we can also make use of our neighboring countries or regional organizations such as Southern African Development Community, African Union. They can also come in, help Zimbabweans, and these are some of the issues that we need to also to discuss, to say when Zimbabweans themselves have not been able to achieve what they intended to do in order for a credible election to be achieved, what can or how can our regional partners help us with? But without wasting much of the time, I think the first person to request for a mic was Chimama. I want to give you your 2 minutes. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, host. Thanks, Dr. Maifa, and hi, everybody. I'll stick to the topic, 2023 election without electoral reforms. Again, my thoughts are, if a political party is to boycott the elections because of my reforms asina kuatendwa or asina kuaddresswa, of which I know zvangu CCC president venyu Nelson Chamisa vakambobuditsa ma7 pointers ema-reforms avo, and yeah, one of them I remember ndeyekuti one vote per person, one man, one vote, which is what we have already been practicing all this time. So, and andione sekuti ma-election angastopa because a political party or two political parties have decided, kuti look, kana pasina ma-reforms, we are not going. Saka, that will work as a disadvantage ku CCC because my elections will go ahead anyway. Shakada. So no contribution yangu for now. That point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chimama. The topic is not about any party boycotting elections. It's just about electoral reforms and the way forward. No one is boycotting, and no one mentioned anything about boycotting. It's just a correction there. And thank you very much, Chimama, for your submission. And without wasting time, let me give this time to Mkoma Padare.
I think the best way is for us to listen to you people. Because tikataura matter what is your point more matter because if you are looking for a
okay, thank you. If you are not going to speak, let's not waste time. I give this time to the host. We'll come back to you.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll come back. What
Matotanga neka confusion. We don't want confusion. Host.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maifa, and thank you as well to Padare for accepting what Dr. Maifa has just said. I just wanted to quickly go back to Dr. Maifa, and yes, thank you very much as well to make a correction when Chimama had erroneously he suggested that the topic is pointing towards the boycotting of an election. Surely, it simply says 2023 election without electoral reforms, and this is what we are concerned about. I will come back to you, Chimama. We need to speak about the electoral reforms. These electoral reforms, which are so fundamental in as far as if we would want to make sure that the outcome of the election is not going to be disputed. Remember, we have had so much of disputes in as far as the outcome of the results, and it is not only the outcome of the election that got disputed. We've had a lot of problems in as far as political violence. We've had problems in as far as issues to do with the people from outside, Zimbabweans who are outside the country intending to vote, but they were not being accorded an opportunity to vote. These are some issues that we need to discuss about. But without wasting time, Chimama, I see your hand is up. Do you want to? I'll give you a minute to ask your question. After which I'll go to Mkoma Champion.
Okay, I think Mango Krumbidzenyu kungoni correcta kuti no one will boycott. So you see, when someone is making a submission, I didn't see kuti a submission yangu in my limitations, because when you talk reforms and you are saying again, it's either we are stopping or we are not. We are going ahead. So when you say thoughts, you know, pama submissions, okay, let's not talk about boycotting. Let's talk about this. But anyhow, that's why I'll wait for now and then submit later. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chimama, and I understand where you are coming from. Let's not dwell on that. We appreciate where you are coming from. Mkoma Champion, this is your chance. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brother Denford there. Thank you, Dr. Maifa. Thank you there, our listeners. Thank you there, Brother Smarters. Thank you there, Padare. Thank you, Chimama. You know, when we talk about electoral reforms, the first reform that must be there is to make sure that we do have got an independent electoral body. And this is something that is absent in Zimbabwe. We really need to be people before we can be anything else. And we need to be real Zimbabweans, not lopsided Zimbabweans. Why I am saying this? Because the independence of the electoral body is very, very important. Because what we really know, a country is being run by institutions, right? If institutions are useless, there is no country to talk about. Because country must be a scene, right? Even if to anyone who knows what are core values, this is the behavior of every institution in a certain country that must resemble, that must reflect the values of the Zimbabweans, the values of our institutions must be something of high integrity, must be independent in the sense that political players are competitors and no one should be above another. So in Zimbabwe, one of the political reform that must be there, it's the independence of the institution. The second one must be the leveling of the political field, right? Why I am talking about the issue of institutions being independent. If ZRP right now was independent, that was going to make the law enforcement easy and fair enough to everybody. Even the judiciary should be able to sentence people based on what they have broken in terms of the law. But you just send someone to prison because that someone belongs to a certain political party or because he's speaking what I do not want. I don't think that's something to talk about. And when we are talking about all these issues, there is no political party that has got any intention to boycott an election unless there is someone who just think that, oh, electoral reforms is about boycotting the elections. And that may be a misinformation or a misconception. That may be totally wrong. So remember, once we have got that, we need the voters roll that is auditable and that is accessible to every voter, and no one has got the custodian of being the owner of voters roll. Voters roll, it's a public document that must be viewed by voters. If you are a political player and you come here and try to present yourself as if you are the custodian of a voters roll, that's totally wrong. And that must be dealt with, especially when we talk about voters roll. When we go to the media freedom, the media must have its own freedom to publicize whatever kind of news they want. Not a lopsided media where the media only talks about one person, while this same media is a beneficiary of all taxpayers. This is something that we all know and we all have to deal with. And what some of our brothers and sisters may not know is that a real election where competitors are being afforded equal opportunities to campaign, equal opportunities to meet with their own people, stakeholders, and so forth. It is a bedrock of better policies, better economic growth. But when you find a country without meaningful electoral reforms, with lopsided laws, with lopsided judiciary, with a lot of things that may worry each and everyone. Right now, the freedom for a Zimbabwean to participate in an election is criminalized. Freedom to speak, free speech is criminalized. When we go to the evenness of political fields, you find that some people are being denied the chance to meet their voters, their potential voters, whoever they want to meet. And I don't think that is something that we have to sit here and talk about and start to gaslight one another and think, you know what, it is fine as long as my side wins because I am following this and this. No. When we talk about impartiality of institutions, they have to be impartial. They have to be independent. And remember, when we talk about independence, we don't talk about independence of being named. A name cannot be independent. A name cannot be, because what we are looking for independence in mind and appearance, right? ZEC should be independent in mind. ZEC should be independent in appearance, deciding on their own based on their mandate. Each and every institution has got a mandate to play. So whenever you hear someone trying to turn and bring his own idea, let's deal with electoral reforms, political reforms, and all those reforms that follows and that surrounds the election process, so that whenever the one who is going to be chosen by the people, he must feel free to come forward and say, I am a winner. We don't want people who are elected by ghost voters. We don't want people who are elected and become beneficiaries of army, where the database, right, is stored at Africom, and you want to come to the people and say, oh, we have got an independent institution called ZEC. It's not an independent institution. Right now, as we speak, we don't have any institution to talk about. We only have got one person to talk about. And that person is a delinquent player. And no one doesn't know who is this delinquent player, because that delinquent player is a beneficiary of coup. Even whatever, even the core values and even the behavior, the norms that Zimbabwean people inhibit, he doesn't have. The education that people talk about in terms of Zimbabweans, that person does not have. Because if you have got a person who comes to a platform and tell you about 1,000 that has got a comma and 5 zeros and another number after that, then you have to know that we are dealing with something that is not that is unknown, and not we are not a serious country to talk about. Because once we become a serious country, we prioritize the importance of our people, the aspirations of our people, the needs of our people, the core values of our people. And those are important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. No worries.
I'll come back to you. Don't go away. I'll come back to you. From what Mkoma Champion said, Vatopedza sports, the leveling of the field, the leveling of the ground. Referee cannot be playing with another team. There's Dynamos and Capes there. Referee otenge achitamba ne Dynamos. The issue of an independent electoral board and a fair electoral board, which will give the voters' role to all participants equally, is really needed. Mkoma Champion has said a lot, and you heard it for yourselves. Let me yield back this time to the host.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Maifa, and thank you as well to Mkoma Champion. Your passion makes the difference. You have just nailed it. But I just wanted to quickly go back the memory lane and say, tikatarisa kubva 2000. Tongoti 1999 when the movement for democratic change was established. Toenda my elections at 2000. Toenda my elections at 2005. Toenda kuna 2000 takatanga 2000, 2002, 2005, kana 2008, 2013 and 2018. Now we are going for this election 2023. There is a pattern there. Initially we have had people losing their lives, people losing their limbs, people losing their properties, and so on and so on. This as a result of state institutions being manipulated by a political party. Toenda panyaya yekuti results kubuda kwaita, even tikaenda kuma-rural areas, how our chiefs are manipulating and are coercing our people there to say, even when you are going to the ballot box, you need to really know that somebody is peeping through the booth. At the end of the day, you need to know where you are going to be putting your eggs. This is what comes from the chiefs. And remember, most of our fathers, our mothers there, this I'm saying, the trend that has been happening since the elections that I have just mentioned is that we have had incoherent elections and results. Mkoma Smarters, when you look at what has happened, I know you've got what you want to say, but when you look at such a trend, what do you have in your mind as far as what is going to be happening in 2023, bearing in mind that we haven't had so much of an achievement on what we intended to do on the electoral reforms? Mkoma Smarters, thank you. Mkoma Smarters, your mic is muted unless if you are not there.
I am Mkoma Denford. Apologies, man. I didn't quite catch I didn't get your question. Are you able to respond? To repeat quickly? I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, I'll quickly say that we have had a situation in since 2000 up to 2018 when elections have been disputed, and at some instances we have had people losing their lives, their properties, and the electoral outcome was contested. When it is contested, our judiciary, anyone could really tell that it is inclined towards one particular political party, and that is the reason why everybody would have thought that the outcome of the Constitutional Court in 2018 could have really pointed towards President Nelson Chamisa's victory. And having said that, what do you think is going to be happening in 2023, particularly bearing in mind that all that we wanted in as far as electoral reforms haven't been achieved in Commerce Matters?
Thank you so much, Comma Denford, for that question, and also thank you for opening this space. So maybe going back to 2000, like if you look at the number of elections that we have had in Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, in terms of presidential candidates, ZANU-PF has never won an election in Zimbabwe, right, from that period that you are giving us in 2000. But I know they are very quick to blame Mugabe. So I'm going to focus on period 2018 to date, right? Period 2018 to date in terms of ZANU-PF. So if you're going to look at the 2018 election, right, and the outcome of that election, right, it is my submission that Advocate Nelson Chamisa did win that election in 2018. And why do I put this submission, or let's take it as a hypothesis, so that we can converge, so that we can have a conversation on this regard. So I can see Padare is laughing. So take it as an hypothesis. As a hypothesis, you can bring your own hypothesis. Then we can debate and discuss on that. So Mkoma Denford, I submit that Nelson Chamisa, win the 2018 election. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this mainly for two reasons. Or let me just put them to three good reasons that I'm going to give you. The first reason is, right, you want to look at the events that then happened after the 2018 election. Events that took place, notable events that took place after the 2018 election. Number one, there was an amendment to our constitution, which was the bill that gave Mnangagwa powers to appoint the prosecutor general without having to go through interviews, right? That amendment gave him that power. Then the two, it gave him power to extend Malaba's term of office, right? So the amendment gave Mnangagwa that, power to extend Malaba's term in office. Why am I giving these examples? And why am I giving this, especially with this topic, Irikuti election without electoral reforms, right? You will notice that Malaba played a pivotal role in 2018 in determining the outcome of the election. How did he play this role? He played this role by making sure that Tabani Mbofu could not bring certain evidence, or certain evidence could not be admitted, during that court case, or during that petition, things to do with the server, or things to do with some of the submissions and arguments that were put forward. One classical example of that argument, do you remember the argument around 16 polling stations with identical outcomes on the number of votes cast, winner, the margins, right? An argument that Madaba then decided just to take, even when ZEC were put on the corner to say, hey, are you able to substantiate that? Then there was a follow-up question with regards to, when Tawanda was asked to say, hey, but you only submitted 2 V11s. How about the other 14? Then it was Tawanda's submission that, hey, it happened, in those polling stations. No court would admit something like that. No court would buy into something like that. So when you look at the amendment, the bill number 2, the amendment that took place, on our 2013 constitution, it points to the fact that 2023 if Mnangagwa loses again, he will not have an option than to turn back to Madaba. But now what's different is he's turning back to Madaba, a guy that he extended a road when he was drowning, right? So that's the role of Madaba in 2023, right? I spoke about the prosecutor general, right? And maybe people may not know the power that comes with that appointment, right? So if you are going to appoint a prosecutor general without having to go through the public interviews, you know, my prosecutor general, they used to be subjected to interviews. Then from those interviews, then the names will be forwarded to the president, right? Then the president will then choose the prosecutor general. Prosecutor general is responsible for appointing even a magistrate arikuzoenda to the magistrate court. And these are the courts that are being used to persecute the Ngarivumes of this world. These are the same courts that are used to persecute the job seekers of this world. So if you are going to have an opponent, someone who wants to challenge Mnangagwa in 2023, what is Mnangagwa going to do? Through this amendment that took place after 2018, they are going to be dragged to a magistrate court. Magistrate court will sentence them to 4 years so that come 2023, they are not on the ballot box. So it's very important, Mkoma Denford, as we discuss this topic about electoral reforms, and why I put forward my own hypothesis that Triple C or MDC alliance then Nelson Chamisa did win 2018, because you see some of the things, some of the initiatives that were brought in by Mnangagwa's regime, by this government, to try to, because they learned a lesson in 2018. So they don't want to have a repeat of that in 2023. So as a preventative measure, they then brought in these amendments. So two notable amendments, Malaba and the role that is going to play in 2023, determining our electoral result. Two, the appointment of the prosecutor general and their influence on our courts, independence, and how they are going to close the civic space. I was going to talk about the civic space, but I thought Mkoma Champion, he made a very good submission there to say, if you want to level the playing ground, then our constitution gives us the right, freedom of speech. And that right is protected. I think it's section 189 of our constitution. It's not a right that can be changed by any law. I know there was another amendment, which brings me to my second reason, Mukoma Denford. The second reason, remember the PVO bill that was introduced again by ZANU-PF, because this is what the regime are trying to do. After 2018, after a rude awakening in 2018, they then looked around and said, okay, guys, what is it that we can do now differently? We know we can try to rig the elections, but in 2018, even though we tried, it looks like there were still some gaps. What is it that we need to do to make sure that we close those gaps? So they brought in the PVO bills so that they close that civic space in Zimbabwe. Citizens right now are not allowed to speak out. Citizens right now are not allowed to protest through the bastardization of the constitution, how they've butchered, if I can use Tino's term there, how ZANU-PF has butchered the constitution, right? Then the last point that I just wanted to make, Mukoma Denford Ndekuti. Now, if you go back now, look in history, you see that Jonathan Moy once made a submission to say ZANU-PF will never reform themselves, or it will never reform itself out of power, right? So because of the 2/3 majority that we gave them in 2018, and I have to admit this, I think we contributed to this 2/3 due to some problems that came with an alliance. Because once you are in an alliance, you don't even know there are people that are going to join the alliance not in good faith, or right. There are people that are doing it for money. There are people that are doing it for positions, and there are people that are doing it for selfish reasons. So we had a deficiency in 2018 because of the so-called coalition or the alliance, which then led to double candidature, which led to a lot of things that were counterproductive. So we donated 2/3 to ZANU-PF. So as a result of those 2/3, they managed to push through their bills, and also they managed to make sure that they stop any attempts to have election or electoral reforms. But we are thankful there is a bill right now that's in motion in Parliament, which sought to bring about, I think, 90 amendments in as far as our electoral laws are concerned. The third reason is, if you look at our electoral laws, Mkoma Denford, and the 2013 constitution, you will notice that there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap. So reforms were meant to make sure that those gaps are closed, so that our electoral laws are aligned with our constitution, the 2013 constitution that was voted in by the people of Zimbabwe. But as I learned, my brother, ZANU-PF will never give you an environment that's ideal for them to lose the election. They will never push through the electoral reforms. I know there have been some recommendations that came from SADC, recommendations that came from the EU. They will try to window dress, make some attempts to say we are doing something, right? Because there's no way that they would not want chiefs or traditional leaders to frog march people. There's no way that they're going to allow Triple C to fly through their adverts through ZBC or Herald. They'll still need to use all these to push their propaganda. So we will never expect them to say, hey, we are going to election. ZANU-PF, they've opened up the civic space. They've opened up they've leveled up the playing ground. We are going to defeat them, even with all these problems. Why am I saying this? Because I'm saying this because of 2008, right? 2008, remember, you were not even allowed to carry daily news in your motor vehicle. Kana ukaona daily news, waitorwa woendwa newe kurally. I remember in 2008, ndichitofamba hangu mutown palunch ndiri kubasa, ndobva tangokaruka takombwa netimu yekuzanu tikazovirirwa kurally yavo. But zvese izvi hazvina kutikonzeresa kuti tisanovhotera Morgan Tsvangirai. So we voted for Morgan Tsvangirai, even my problems aripo, pasina my electoral reform. So this is my response to say, it's ideal. While it's very good for us to have electoral reforms, right? But we should also be, alive to the reality that ZANU-PF will not give these reforms in a silver platter. They will not. They will try by all means to make sure that when we go to elections, my elections are in their favor. But even against the tide, even against all these odds, we've got the potential to defeat them, because we did it in 2018, we also did it in 2008, and we are going to do it again. We will appear before Malaba. This time around, we will use his court ruling, we will use his suggestions, the suggestion that he made in the court ruling in his decision in 2018 to say, hey, bring the primary evidence. This time around, the primary evidence will be there. Thank you, Mkoma Delford.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smarters, for your submission. And I can't repeat everything that you have said, but the most important thing that I can pick from your submission is that electoral reforms or no reforms, we are going to make it. And people should not be discouraged, because like you said, whether thunder or hail, ZANU-PF is not prepared to make those reforms. So we move on, and our new assignment is to be encouraging each other, encouraging our communities, encouraging everybody else to still go and vote, and we will make it. Without wasting time, let me go to Mpendero.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maifa and Mkoma Denford, for the space. 2023 elections without electoral reforms again. If we try to reflect on the previous elections, the previous years, I think we will see that elections were something people recall as dangerous in terms of loss of human lives, in terms of violence. And as we see right now, things are a bit flexible in terms of because of maybe communication, but not forgetting that we still have violence, we still have now that we have more of use of courts, use of police to arrest opposition members. It is quite. It is going to be a bit difficult, especially a few days near the elections, before the elections and after the elections. Remember, in 2008, 2009 election, Morgan Tsvangirai won with more than 70%. In 2018, President Chamisa won again, and without manipulation, without violence, without the courts, without the police, ZANU-PF cannot win an election. So they try by all means to continue hanging on those factors, continue hanging on manipulating the courts, manipulating the police force, manipulating the army and so on. So what I see and what we all see is that to try and maybe deal with the issue of reforms, we can also continue to increase the number of voters. Because imagine if we get something like 73%, 74%, 80%, it will be difficult. And also what we need truly is members of parliament. If we get more than 2/3 of members of parliament, it will be difficult even if they rig the presidential election, but we have a massive defeat on the number of parliamentarians in the council. It means even that president, it will be difficult for him, and it will be hard for him to maintain the parliament where he doesn't have the control over. On the issue of the reforms, I'm also praying that maybe it might come positive that the bill which is before the parliament might be concluded as soon as possible, so that it may be used in the next elections, because already have a bill which is being debated. I think it was presented sometime last month or 2 months ago in the parliament. So it's already in motion. Then some of its conditions are the voters' roll, the diaspora vote, together with the use of real-time results announcement, the credibility of ZEC. But it's difficult for someone who has been holding on to power for quite long to just have those reforms implemented. It comes with a push. It comes with a force. But what we can do to overcome that is to register more people, to make sure that we override the rigging. Then maybe the last thing I wanted to talk about is that it's not true, and it's not even there that there is a plan, or there is anyway where it is planned, or people who are thinking of boycotting elections. There's nothing like that. Or I have not seen even one political party which has said that they are going to boycott the election. Then the other thing, the arrests. We had arrests almost every day last week. Sorry, almost every day. We had 2 in Masvingo, we had 1 in Harare, we had another one. And also we are hearing that these are other police officer who gave a green light to the Chirumanzu rally. She's going through a lot. It's just a rumor which is coming in. So you see, a lot of manipulation is happening. A lot of things are happening before we even go to this conviction. 2 of them already happened in 1 month. What all that means is that we have a leadership which is not comfortable, which is feeling uncomfortable with the opposition. And if they are doing this and we are going towards the election, we have a lot of CCC leaders who are being arrested, and who some of them are still, their trial has not been concluded since 2020, even before, like this government issue. It was in 2020 when he was arrested. 3 years down the line, he is now being convicted. So you see that they were waiting, and this is their plan. So that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Both,
Thank
are
you.
you there?
Yes, yes, I'm here. I was battling to unmute here. Thank you very much, Mkoma Mpendero. Yes, we are happy that election date is coming closer, and Zimbabweans are going to be making a mark. We are going to overwhelmingly vote for what is good for Zimbabwe. But Padare, like you were saying, you were not prepared, but I think now you are prepared to speak, as a number of people have spoken. As you speak, I just wanted to find out from you on whether you personally, as Padare, do you believe in constitutionalism, and why is it that people from ZANU-PF are so much concerned about Advocate Nelson Chamisa going around Africa to have concerns about what is happening, the political temperature in Zimbabwe? Go ahead, Padare.
What Chamisa is doing, going around Africa, it's his political right. They form alliances across Africa. No one stops him, and nobody really in ZANU-PF cares about that, to be honest. I don't think people can talk about Bant, and you can talk about political jargon, but nobody really cares about that, because that happens. That happens. Actually, to be fair, to be truthful, Chamisa has not traveled like he traveled when in 2018. And that's a sign. Even in Europe itself, he hasn't been around as much as he was in 2018, because people are not buying into the type of politics that he is actually shown, and the leader that he is. So there's nothing really special about that. But what's amazing is that the SADC itself, that that he's been calling for a long time, has come up and agreed that Zimbabwe is ready for elections. So that's another point to take. I wouldn't go with the assumption. If I was to go and critique what Smata said here, then I would call him a CIO, someone who's really working not for your party, but working in undercover to all lead you into some leading astray, really, because there's nothing as worse as a leader.
Sorry, Padare.
You told me.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
We said we are not discussing individuals. Let's discuss concepts.
It is concept.
Concepts.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Mozotaurirana nasmata
Yeah, but
seruko.
better respect
Please,
what I said. I said that
please,
if I was going to talk about the
please.
concept, yes, I've heard you. If I was going to talk about the concept that he said here, I've told you, if I was going to critique it in truthfulness, I would
Yes,
say,
but don't call
yeah.
him a CIO
No, I
or
said I would
anything.
call him a CIO, because there's nothing as destructive as someone who doesn't acknowledge his own failures and try to propel someone.
Okay, let's go back to the topic,
Yeah,
please.
let's go to the topic. Yes, let's go to the topic. The topic, the electoral reforms. People are talking about this bill that has come up. The bill which has come up through Anamaduku and Pollard. Actually, let's give it weight, where people have worked hard. Pollard is actually what gave you that bill that's in Parliament, and that bill is not coming through this election round. So people shouldn't put in their money on that, because already ZEC has already told us in front of the parliament what the issues have been. The issues of money and funding and people in parliament really not putting up enough substance for reforms. People have mentioned reforms, but they did not articulate what sort of reforms they needed. It's only this Pollard guy, this Pollard thing that is coming up now that is giving us what we are crying for here. So it is the Pollard thing that is giving us that. And they're saying ZEC has already said this will not come into play now. It's far too into the election game for anything to come through these the changes that people are crying for. So we're going to be looking at the next election possibly after it is debated, after it has been warranted the merit it needs. So for people
But
like
he is
this,
lying.
I'm not lying.
You are lying.
What lying about
Thank
what?
God. Are you going to allow him to lie like this?
Why?
Why would you allow him to continue when he's lying?
Allow
Yes.
Padare to land in the
Thank you
next
so much.
minute, please.
You said you want fairness. How can you be fair and you cannot
Okay,
listen to someone?
land. Prepare to land,
What sort
Padare.
of people are you who
Let's
spoke for fairness and you can't even
Padare.
listen to someone?
Padare,
To the topic
with due
of
respect, I think host, can you remove this guy here? Because you can't tell the host something that is bad like that to say you are like this, you are like this. Please.
It's okay,
Thank you.
Nkoma champion. Let's move on, Padare. Can you be
the
on
only
standby?
reform you really need
Okay,
is
I'll
the
come back
reform is
to
in your
you,
head.
Padare.
Because politics is what you don't want to talk about. You want to talk about things that are emotional, and instead of talking real politics, we are talking real politics here. If Maduka is not the one that put up that bill, then tell us who did, who pushed it in parliament.
Can I respond?
Thank you very much, Padare there. I think he's having trouble to connect. Commerce Matters, we will come back to you. We will come back to you and Koma Champion.
30 seconds to set the record straight.
Okay.
Thank you. Just 30 seconds. So the bill that's in parliament, it came through the parliamentary committee. Okay. It did not come through Maduku or Pollard. It came through the parliamentary committee, and that parliamentary committee is composed of ZANU-PF MPs, Triple C MPs, MDC Alliance MPs, and this had nothing whatsoever to do with Pollard and those other political players. They were actually disappointed. If there is something they were pushing for, they were pushing for a government of national unity. Unfortunately, the government of national unity didn't materialize, and it's not going to materialize. Then error number 2, SADC has not issued a report. Yes, they came through to Zimbabwe. They had meetings with different players. They are yet to put through a report. I know there are attempts from ZANU-PF propaganda machines and from ZANU-PF people to say SADC have okayed. They've said Zimbabwe is ready for election. Zimbabwe is not yet ready for election. If I can tell you the classified minutes of the meeting that they had with your ZANU-PF Padare, I will tell you that the bill that's in parliament today was promised to SADC to say we do have a bill that took into account some of your recommendations you made in 2018. So we are making progress, and they gave excuses with regards to COVID to say we only delayed because of COVID. We could not have this bill in time. So SADC is yet to come back and say, hey, are we ready? So this bill is going to be useful for this election, not for the next election. I just thought I could come up and clear the record and set the record straight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mukoma Smarters. And I would want to, and I'm very certain that Padare, you were present as we started our program. We have got some benchmarks that we use here on our platform when we are presenting. I told you that in this show, not only the people from Twitter are the ones who are listening. We've got people on Facebook. We've got people on on YouTube. We've got our Change Radio. Some people from even deep in the rural areas. When you come here with your propaganda and try to tell people lies so that people will believe your lies here, these are the grounds through which we can chuck you out of the speakers section. Why? Because we do not want propaganda to get into the heads of our people. We want people to speak truth here. And when you are speaking personality issues here on people, we are not going to be tolerating that. So I know you are going to bring about a narrative that they are alleging that it's a safe space, but it's a toxic space because we have done away with you after you are the one who is propagating issues that are not there. So for those people who are coming into give their submissions, surely be informed that when you are not speaking the truth, we are not warming the seats when we are here. We are speaking Zimbabwe. We are speaking the lives of the next generations. Our generation is just lost. We cannot allow our children to have lost lives because people would want to make the status quo remain. The status quo that hasn't made people of Zimbabwe's lives good. So this is an opportunity for people. I said it is not only a political party space here. Every Zimbabwean has to come, but we've got to come with responsibility. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Maifa.
Thank you very much, Koma Denford. And we mentioned before that we don't have guest speakers. So anybody with submissions to make, feel free to request for the microphone and give your submissions. Before I go back to Koma Champion, who hasn't spoken in a long time, let's go to, I think we have a new speaker, Buster. Over to you, Buster.
Thanks, host. I'm not ready at the moment, but thank you very much. I was listening anyway. For dealing with such people, such kind people like Padare. We all know Padare anyway, so we shouldn't entertain him because kwavo ku chimurenga kana ku general chat kuno bore because they've got no one to argue. They've got no one to push the propaganda to. So each time they come here, don't ever think they are progressive. They want to take Zimbabwe forward, but they want to push their propaganda. So thank you very much, because we can't afford the situation of the burning country. We can't afford to entertain or to accommodate such kind. We don't care. So I'll pass the baton to the next speaker, then I'll come back when I'm ready. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much, Mkoma Basta there, and we don't have to delve so much or waste so much of our time still speaking to. They have just come here to sort of disrupt, but we are aware that is it. I will still continue to say any Zimbabwean, actually anyone, even somebody from outside Zimbabwe, is free to speak on this platform, because it is a platform where we've got to change ideas, and changing ideas for the good of Zimbabwe. So you have to feel discriminated, but maybe you can feel discriminated when your conscience is telling you that what I'm going to be speaking is something that is not true, and is something that is not going to build Zimbabwe. But for everyone who wants to build Zimbabwe, definitely you are welcome. Mkoma Champion, go ahead.
Thank you so much, host and co-host. When we talk about electoral reforms, there are some of the things that are embedded in the electoral reform, especially political of certain individuals and institutions, especially the office of the President of Chiefs and the Chiefs Council. That is one of the things that must be made, that we must make sure, if any, to say that the President of Chiefs Council and his institution, all of them are apolitical, because they owe their mandate to the people of Zimbabwe, not to any political party. And also the issue of political violence and intimidation of the voters. It's something that if our electoral body was very, very independent enough. It could have been able to deal with that. And also, I just wanted to say, we all have to remember that the important aim or objective of voting is to bring about credible elections. And by the end, the president-elect and the MPs have to assume the power that is there going to be given by the people. But whenever all these things are circumvented, whereby we have, like what I've said, that whenever you have got a biased institution, like right now what is happening to ZEC or ZEC, the problem will be that we are going to continue producing irregular and disputed elections. That does not serve purpose. That does not even give or that is not a true reflection of the will of the people. And the problem comes there is that whenever the president becomes someone who is not brought by the will of the people, he will tend to abuse all the institutions, and whatever comes after it, he will be abusing. Look at right now, we do have got irregular arrests, meaningless arrests. All these things, they are coming as a result of the failure of our electoral system. And when the failure of the electoral system brings such issues, what is going to happen is, because this has got a spillover effect. Once you have elected a delinquent player, what follows is a delinquent policy. What follows is the delinquent also appointment or illegitimate appointments. And you have seen this happening. Right now, everyone is talking about the ambassador at large, or the ambassador or the ambassador at large, or whatsoever. All these things, they come as a result of the failure of the institution called ZEC. So this institution owes a great deal, a great mandate to the people of Zimbabwe. Because once that institution has rendered to be useless, like right now, look to say, how is it constituted? It is being constituted by people who have failed interviews. People who do not even know what does the word transparent mean. If you go back to the recording of the interviews, and if you go back to Scandalous Wednesday's analysis about the candidature or candidates of ZEC, you would find that there is a great problem, because some people were appointed without merit, and those people, I don't expect them to work in the best interest of the people, but to act in the best interest of those who have appointed them. And also, something that was supposed to come by, it's about the role of security system, right, of Zimbabwe. The security sector should be apolitical too, because their mandate, they owe the mandate to the Zimbabwean people. In actual form, if we are in economics, this is a public good, where it is the role of everyone to make sure that they protect everyone. They don't protect certain individual, because this is not a private security, but it's a national security, of which they should be in the barracks, not in politics. They shouldn't be in politics like what we find them in. They shouldn't be in any institutions, because we know that those are some of the reasons why our institutions are failing. But with that in mind, we just hope, and we are of the view that all these irregularities that we have in the Electoral Act we still go there and perform and do whatever we can and whatever we think we can be able to do, because that's the only option that we are left with. So we now have to make sure that we use, whether there are no electoral reforms or they are there, we use the voting time and the voting process to express our displeasure with the current system. We all know how the current system has broken down our institutions to the extent that those institutions, they are now useless. They are now having no mandate to play. But now they are now like they are now private institutions that must work for a certain individual. With that in mind, and I think at this point, I will yield my mic. Thank you, host and co-host.
Thank you very much, Koma Champion. And I apologize. I was trying to accept a speaker and I ended up muting everyone. It was by error. True, indeed, Koma Champion. We have to vote in our numbers. We have to send the message to the villages, to the towns, everywhere. Everybody must vote so that people don't continue losing, opportunities and opportunities for a good life. And some of us have already lost. We don't expect our own grandchildren to be going through what we have gone through. We have to make right. So voting is our only option, whether reforms are there or not. Let me give this time to Mkoma Basta.
Thank you very much, Mandipa Pegutsika. Where to start from? You've said something where I want to pick it from. The last statement you have mentioned, whether reforms or not. I want to poke your mind, or I want to tackle this issue or address this issue from a different angle. Let's assume all the reforms are done. Is it a guarantee with this regime we're dealing with that the elections are going to be free and fair? That's the question I'm always asking myself again, because I want to go further to see the kind of animal we are dealing with, the devil we are dealing with, to say, okay, fair enough. Here's the reforms you're asking for. Let's go to the elections. Are we surely guaranteed that whoever's going to win is a winner? Tsvangirai, we all know, we all agree that Tsvangirai, even the ZANU-PF, Bob is on record, Tsvangirai won the elections. It's not a secret. But the question is, why did he not got into the State House? The question I want to pose, or probably things which we might need to think of, is what other things besides the reforms which might deny the true winner to get into the State House? That's very important, because Zatotanga, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, what Zaitika kuna Jacob Ngaruvume, the ZANU-PF has started already. Kubairira fee. This is purely the abuse of our constitution. It's not only the reforms, but we got a deeper problem which we need to deal with. Because reforms, they might do, let's assume they do the reforms. What are we going to do with a bigger cake like the constitution? Because we will see part of reforms is the freedom of speech, coverage. But it's only yesterday when Jacob Ngaruvume is being sentenced or being accused for a crime which does not exist. The crime which is enshrined, the freedom which is enshrined in our constitution. So how are we going to navigate ourselves from that issue? Because surely when the elections come, we are in for deep trouble at this regime. They are making sure that they will they will try to suffocate every threat kwavari. So it's another thing, a headache which we need to deal with. So okay, how are we going to deal with this issue? Because surely these guys are not going to reform themselves out of power. You can see the capture of okay, we all know Chamisa again won the elections. So we can't dispute that. But what happened there is there was the exposure of our judiciary because of some weaknesses and some loopholes, like irregularities or certain a number of constituencies having similar numbers, all those things, that at least the outcome of that judgment was, at least they could have, because of the case, they could have Triple C, they could have got a rerun, but the judiciary tried by all means to twist. They knew there was a time when the judges were quiet, looking at each other, when Taban was filing up the points. But what happened? They find squeeze and napa so that they can they will give kuna ED the win asna queen. So my worry now, or the question which I want to pose probably to the next person or whoever who thinks might have an answer to this question, is what are we going to do with other things which are in play, which are being used by ZANU-PF? Because now already we heard they're going for tender EBT. So you can see the trend now, they're going for the voiceless ones. And but not just 2023, who's going to come for our arrest? Who's going to defend us? All those things. ZANU-PF knows what they're doing. They know the world is watching. So what gives them the guts to carry on with these acts? They know we're shepherds. We're sheep without shepherds. So we as Zimbabweans are left on our own. We have to deal with these things. So how best can we deal with probably two things at the same time: the electoral reforms and the constitution? We all know the constitution has been heavily abused by these guys, and the life carries on like normal. And now this is where here we are. Ataura will say, cut his mouth, cut his head. Where until which point are we going to say, this enough is enough? So we need to think about that. So probably I want to pose it as a question, just to play a devil advocate to Kutindin's vote. How are we going to deal with this issue? Because it's a concern to me. Not that the reforms are anabas. No, I'm thinking of them too. Synchronize the two. How are we going to deal with this? For now, let me just do Mamvura so that I can give others a chance. And thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mkuma Basta, and your submission, and taking it a step further, making such an inquiry. But I'm not going to preempt. I'm going to give it to the speakers that are here to delve into what you are asking. At this particular moment, let me give this opportunity to Mambo Soswe to give his submission, and if he can also get into your question. Thank you, Mambo.
Thank you, my brother Denford. Thank you, Dr. Amai. I'm glad you're doing well. You're back on the spaces. Thank you, Dr. Smarters, and other speakers that are here. Everyone else, fellow comrades, fellow champions, thank you for discussing this very important issue. We discussed this important issue at the backdrop of yet another illegal conviction of a fellow comrade, Jacob Ngaruvume. For all his mistakes and his missteps, Jacob Ngaruvume has been a fighter for electoral reforms. And we also discussed this issue at the backdrop of a lot of criticism, especially from the so-called neutrals, the likes of Wilbert Mukori. I think some of you know him. We go around, we come to our spaces and whisper in our ears, that we should not be going for elections without electoral reforms. Obviously, it's one of the many strategies by ZANU-PF to try and discourage people from going to vote, because you will not travel to go and vote or register to vote if you are being told that the elections are already rigged because Triple C or opposition parties are not fighting for electoral reforms. But of course, that is just a myth. We'll continue to go for the elections, and we will go for the 2023 elections as we have gone for the previous elections and winning them. And every time we've gone for these elections, we say it, and we've always said it, that we are going into them under protest because we know that the playing field is not level. And as previous speakers have said, ZANU-PF have already said, through a number of their mouthpieces, that they are never going to reform themselves, out of power. And we have tried to do what these neutrals, so-called neutrals, say, that we should boycott elections. We boycotted elections, a number of elections, but that did not stop ZANU-PF from declaring themselves winners, from continuing to hold subsequent elections. So we have seen that boycotting elections doesn't work with ZANU-PF, because they will simply create other political puppets that will participate in those elections and legitimize those elections. So will not boycott elections. But also to just prove that what ZANU-PF and the so-called neutrals is just a myth or a political strategy. When they did not do much. We recently, fast forward to now, we launched Prepare. I think all of you know about the Prepare document that was prepared by Triple C with the help of civic society, the pre-election pact on electoral reforms. It was launched in Harare. I think you see, if you go on social media, you see the pictures. We printed the handouts, the booklets. It's a big document that was prepared, consciously, knowing what we wanted. That we wanted to present that document to Parliament. So those that are coming here saying that the Parliament, the bill that is before the Parliament right now was championed by Pollard, it's just a fallacy, because that bill came from our document Prepare, and you guys contributed to it, because the launch itself was paid for by people in the diaspora through the diaspora desk, and it was a big launch. And if you read that document, it talks about all the reforms that we need to have, not just electoral reforms, but broadcasting reforms, media reforms, the chiefs. It addresses all the issues that we are always talking about. So we can't then say that the opposition has not done anything. We continue to do that. During that time of NERA, again, I think we had about 3 court cases that we paid for from here. Apart from paying for those rallies, we paid for 3 court cases that that went before the courts to challenge Robert Mugabe then to ensure that there were electoral reforms. Now we continue. I think Ellen Shiriedenga, those who have had the discussion with her, those we have been addressed by her, Mdara Makoni, they will tell you that they've written, I don't know how many letters to ZEC. So on the legal front, we've done a lot. In Parliament, we are doing a lot. Challenging ZEC, presenting facts in those letters. We have done that. Now, answering the question that is a subject of discussion today, should we go for elections without electoral reforms? We don't have a choice. We just have to do what we have to do. But of course, there are things that we can do to ensure that the playing field, is not that unlevel. We can't level it up, obviously. But we, as a Triple C, I think you have seen President Chamisa having meetings with SADC, which was very positive. And of course, among the things that he discussed, it's obviously the issue of the electoral environment in Zimbabwe. So we have SADC, and you remember SADC. SADC is a set of guidelines for free and fair elections. That every country is a signatory for. Unfortunately, Zimbabwe, has refused to sign that set of guidelines. So we need to continue putting pressure on SADC, putting pressure on UN, putting pressure on our resident countries, those who are in the UK, in America, wherever you are, in Australia. Let's continue to write letters, engage, political players, governments of the day, educating them on what is happening in Zimbabwe, making them aware of what ZANU-PF is doing. It's very important. Like now, the people, our comrades in UK, they're fighting, that Emerson Mnangagwa doesn't come, or his invitation to the inauguration of the king is resigned. That's very important. That's key, because when they do that, they cite the human rights abuses, they cite the illegal convictions of our comrades. They also cite the issue of electoral reforms, because when Emerson Mnangagwa came in, and he did it right here at the UN in America, he declared it, he said it before the world, that his first mission was to ensure that there are electoral reforms in Zimbabwe. Up to date, he hasn't, enacted not even one reform. So he has to be held responsible. So those are issues that we can bring up with our resident countries. And then at our level as Zimbabweans in the diaspora, we are influencers. Let's talk to our relatives. Let's talk to our communities. Let's make sure we do our own voter education, because it's about education. It's about empowering the voter, making the voter know their rights, making the voter know what is happening, in their environment, what is happening in Zimbabwe. So let's make sure that we influence voters to go and vote for Triple C. Why do you wait? Why do you want a chief, some sabuku to tell your parents, to tell your brothers, to tell the people, your relatives, who to go and vote for when you are there? Yeah, it's simply what, we are crying about things that we can correct. These are things that are within our mandate. We are crying about chiefs frog marching people or influencing people or telling people that go and vote for ZANU-PF. Why can't you do the same? We have over 4 million Zimbabweans that are in the diaspora. If all of us took it as a duty, as an obligation to educate, to do voter education to our communities, to our relatives, we have a lot of people listening to us. We call ourselves influencers, because if you tell someone who is in Zimbabwe right now, whom you are taking care of or whom you are helping, they will listen to you. So you can influence change in Zimbabwe right from the comfort of your home. And then lastly, of course, we need to defend the vote. We need to educate the people on the need to defend the vote, the importance of defending the vote. How do you defend the vote? Defending the vote is not just waiting until elections are done and then you get in the streets. You defend the vote by making sure that we are registered to vote. We have millions of people that are registered to vote, and those millions of people, actually turn out to go and register to vote. If you look at the numbers for the 2018 elections, you see that we did very well in terms of mobilizing people to go and register to vote. I think we had about 5.5 million people that were registered to vote, a little more than that, because only about 5 point something ended up actually turning out to go and vote, which means about 1 million people that were registered to vote did not go and vote. And that's a huge deficit. And if also look into it, Zimbabwe has a voting population of almost 10 million people, but only 6 million people are registered. What about the 3 million? So that's one of the things that we can use, to defend our vote, making sure that people are registered to vote and they actually turn out to go and vote, because that's one of the mechanisms that we can use to avoid rigging, or to stop rigging. We won't stop rigging entirely, but if multitudes of people turn up, even ZANU-PF will find it very difficult to rig those elections. So this is one big way that the people in the diaspora and every Zimbabwean, should be doing, educating the voter. That's critical. We cannot, overemphasize the need for that. So let's just take that up and do what we can. Let's have flyers, let's have posters, registration as we are speaking right now. It's open. And, some people will not understand the delay in our processes. But as we are speaking, people are being given targets. Right now, President Chamisa has given everyone who wants to be a candidate. And of course, the candidate selection process, some of it has been completed today, but Harare and Blawa have not done. Those people have been given targets. Register 100 people. Come and show us on the day when you come to present your manifesto. Show us how many people you have registered, so you can see, amidst everything that is happening, there are a lot of smaller strategies in between, because the president wants people to be registered, and he's using this process to get people registered. So let's continue to do that, even us here. Thank you very much, Nkoma Denford and Dr. Amai, for this very important topic.
Thank you very much, Mambo Sose, for your submission. Thank you for wishing me well. Yeah, we thank God for fighting for me. Well and alive now. So It's very interesting to note that if we go back to the time of Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai, NERA was already in existence. So this issue that we're deliberating on today is not just starting now. Electoral reforms have been mentioned from a long time ago, according to Mambo's submission. And it shows that the regime is not willing to change, like what Dr. Smarters has already mentioned. Without wasting time, I saw a new speaker. Okay, Mkoma Temba, over to you. Temba, you are muted. Okay, maybe he's away from the speakers. We go back to Dr. Smarters. Host, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. I suppose
maybe
Dr.
speakers are busy. Let me give this opportunity back to you.
Okay,
sorry,
thank you.
Doctor.
Dr. Smarters is back.
Sorry, Dr. Maifa. I'm driving currently, so I was trying to access my phone. Yeah, I just wanted to echo Mambo Shoshe comments there. Thanks so much, my brother, for that submission. Especially initiatives around, registering people to vote. And the numbers that you brought in, my brother.
Sorry,
can you hear me, brother? Yeah,
I can hear you. Sorry, Dr. Smarters. What I wanted to do is, as you are giving your submission, remember when you finished your first submission, I had said that I wanted to ask you a question. So I just wanted you to give your submission together with what I'm going to be asking you to now. There are some allegations that the officials from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission are going along with the towards the ZANU-PF rallies and conducting voter registrations. I just heard that. I'm not too sure how far true it is. If it is true, what is your comment about that? Secondly, I also want to come to you on issues to do with as Zimbabweans. We have tried through our parliament and advocates to say we need electoral reforms, but it seems ZANU-PF is sticking to its guns. And our regional leaders from the Southern African Development Community being those who can also get into Zimbabwe's problems. What also do you think about the issues to do with SADC having noticed what has been happening in Zimbabwe for the past years, and nothing has been happening, but it has got some principles and guidelines governing the conducting of credible elections. What has to be done, or what has to happen in Zimbabwe before SADC has to make sure that things in Zimbabwe has to come right? Thank you.
Thanks so much, my brother. Mugabe was removed from power through a coup, and the same SADC was there. So we had SADC when Mugabe was toppled by Mnangagwa through a coup. So for us to expect them to come to our rescue, man, if they could not save Mugabe, one of their leaders, someone, I know they used to benefit from ZANU-PF for sure. So if they could not come to Mugabe's rescue, there's no way that we can expect them to come to our rescue. But on a more positive note, the fact that they traveled to Zimbabwe, they came through, they met our leader. We can never, take that lightly. It's a good positive, for us. Say at least they came through. We sat on a round table, because I know people have been blaming the opposition to say, guys, you need solidarity. I think solidarity is very important, even as we go into this election. To say 2018, our elections were disputed. 2023, there were recommendations. Recommendations that came from the European Council. Recommendations that came through from the SADC. So it's going to be important for 2023 for us to go back to say, we asked for this, for you to intervene. I don't know what is it that you need to happen first before you can intervene. So for me, that's my message. Not that I'm expecting anything. The same way I would not expect, Zach to attend our rallies, right? The same way I will not be shocked, when I see Zach opening a blitz, a voter registration blitz at a ZANU-PF rally. For me, that's a very good thing. Because one thing that you need to understand, guys, if you're in Zimbabwe, is there are people that are going to these rallies just to get chingwa, for instance, right? There are people that are just going there not because they want, to attend the rallies. So if Zek are going to open a blitz to register these people, it's a good thing. I think if I could refer you back to our Mango strategy, right? So let them register people to vote. Let's make sure we educate people, just like what my brother said. The moment we register people, I know we are going to have our own rallies. I know we are going to benefit. It's not everyone who is being registered right now by ZANU-PF through their unscrupulous initiatives, right? Who is going to vote for ZANU-PF on the day. So it's good. Let them register people to vote. At least it's one positive thing that I'm seeing from ZANU-PF. It's the first time that I've seen ZANU-PF trying to mobilize people to register to vote. It's the first time. I know they've been talking about the 6 million, the 5 votes, but the message always is, how are you going to get the 5 million votes if you're not mobilizing people? How are you going to say 5 million votes when we have 5.8 million people that are registered? But maybe through the collective efforts, right from the initiatives that we're doing from spaces, from people that are on the ground, and also in initiatives that are being implemented by maybe ZANU-PF, we are seeing the 6 million, right? We are seeing the 6 million mark, which is closer to the task. Because if there's one thing that ZANU-PF have been doing with ZEC, is to make sure that they do a lot of rigging, involved around ballot staffing. They tamper around with the turnout, say how many people have registered to vote, how many then turned up on the day to register to vote, and they tended to play around with that number. So, man, if you could get 10 million people registered to vote, it would be difficult for these guys to steal the election from us. But we are not surprised. Yes, we need solidarity from SADC, but we can never pin our hope on SADC. Neither can we put those hopes or pin them on AU. They are always protecting each other. They are in this thing together. They are corrupt. SADC leaders are corrupt. If the HH from Zambia, right? So we are waiting to hear from him. HH from Zambia, other than, the other bastards from SADC, they are just useless and they are corrupt as well. So there's no way that we can expect them to, to favor opposition. But man, 2008 is going to repeat itself. SADC was not on our side. They are not going to be on our side this time around. With this citizen initiative, the fact that we're not going to be having double candidates, the fact that we are having leaders that are coming from the communities, not leaders that are involved, right? Leaders that are coming from the communities, and also the initiative that was, I think that Mambo Sose touched on, to say before you are selected, before your name is on the ballot box, on the ballot paper there, bring 100 new voters, people that you have registered to vote. So you look at that, the effect, the fact that we have people that are mobilizing people to vote, people that really matter. It's going to be a game changer. The regime is afraid. You look at their budget, man. If you want to look at the amount of threat that we pose to the regime, you need to pay attention to the budget. How much they have invested in trying to destroy the movement, how much they've invested to try to topple Advocate Nelson Chamisa, how much they've invested in trying to close the civic space, how much they've invested even to the point of putting their manifestos to say Zimbabwe is open for business, right? But if you look at the Ngarivume's case, right, it goes against that. So how much they've invested in all that and these risks and own goals, it just shows you the amount of threat, how they look at us. Ndara, kana uchenda kunorwisana nechosvo hauende ne14 pounds hama. Okay, you need a 14 pounds hammer. Kana uchida kunorwisana nechinhu chinoda 14 pounds hammer. Kana uri kuboxing, kana uda kunorwisana Adesanya, you need to cut weight. Yoenda murange 180 pounds for Adesanya. Kana wakuma 250, 260, tinokuendesa kuheavyweight. Ndo pane ZANU-PF. They look at us, at least to my lightweight, to my heavyweight, because they try to capture everyone, including the judiciary. just because of Nelson Chamisa and the Triple C. Thank you, my brother. Gonna be leaving the space now. I've got other commitments, but it was really nice to hear from citizens. And also, thanks so much, man, for this space. Much appreciated. Dr. Malfa, our minister.
Thank you. It seems your minister is just muted or she's busy with something. But thank you, Dr. Smarters, for the time that you had. Safe travels, and we always appreciate your contributions. You give so much of a difference on our spaces. Until we meet again, maybe next week. Safe travels. Dr. Mafa, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I was hearing. I thought it was you who was supposed to speak. I hear you.
No, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, it's okay.
Go ahead. And who is next? I think it's Temba. Is Temba still on with us, or he is still muted? Temba, can you hear me? Okay, that's no problem. What I'm gonna do is we've got Baba Jason here. I'm Komatino. Let's give Baba Mateo the time to give his views. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, the host Denford, co-host Dr. Maifa, and everyone here. I came in when Mambo Sose was actually talking, and I will quickly just say add a few more words to what he has already spoken about. I want to thank Dr. Mambo Sose for actually highlighting that we had NERA, which was actually trying to doing the same job of electoral reforms. But let me say that it's not only a question of electoral reforms. We also need security reforms, which affect obviously the police, the army, the CIO, and to some extent the judiciary, because the judiciary should actually give us security as a people, but it's not happening. And also, we also need media reforms. If you look in the Herald today, or if you look, you listen to ZBC, you can only hear about President Chamisa when it is something, they are saying something negative. There is never anything positive. And, so in other words, what we are facing is much bigger than what we think. But not that we cannot win the war. Yes, I know it's going to be tough because ZANU-PF itself does not want to reform itself out of power. That's why we are seeing that way back from 2016 up to today, we have gone 7 years now, and those reforms are not coming. Even if you put them in parliament, ZANU-PF will not budge, even if you put them anywhere else, because they know if reforms are done today, then they are out of power. But the solution, only solution that we have, is to actually make sure that people are registered to vote, as many as possible. And many people vote, and after voting, people defend the vote. That's the only way, because anything else expecting ZANU to do the reforms is actually like, I don't know, asking the impossible. Because, and also at the end of the day, what we should look at is ZANU actually thinks that if it continues to refuse to reform, then one day the Triple C, for example, now will actually say, we are not participating in elections, and they will celebrate, because that is what they will be looking for. Because as you can see now, if you look, I mean, I've been on the ground several times already this year, and if you find that, if you go into the rural areas, and you will discover that the awareness is doubled from what it was in 2018. So everyone is in the rural areas is now aware of their environment. They are now aware of what ZANU-PF is doing. They are now aware of how clueless Mnangagwa himself is. So we should only encourage them, as I can't remember who actually said it, that we in the diaspora, we actually make sure we get in touch with our relatives, our friends in the rural areas, our neighbors in the rural areas, our neighbors all over the country, and make sure that they register to vote. If we register big, like the president always says, we will win big, because it is very not easy for ZANU-PF to be able to rig if the figures are quite big, But if we've got small margins, that's when you see that ZANU-PF is able to rig. So I think let us continue to urge people to register, because registration is ongoing. People should know, and now there's going to be, a registration of IDs and birth certificates in most parts of the country. That is, we should take advantage of that and let the young people that are coming out of school, that are getting to the age of 18, make sure that they are already registered, so that they are able to actually vote this coming year. So I think that's all that I wanted to add. And I want to thank you very much, you guys, for continuing to push this, for continuing to do these Twitter spaces. At times when I'm in Zimbabwe, I want to join, but unfortunately, with our situation in the country, you don't have internet, the lights have gone maybe for the whole day, and you have run out of battery and things like that. There are so many problems that you face when you are actually in Zimbabwe. But I want to thank you for continuing to push this and to continue to fight. We need to make sure that ZANU-PF goes this year, not another year, but just this year. Because if we don't, then our life is doomed. That of our children, that of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be doomed. So it is upon us to make sure that each and every one of us can do a sacrifice. Dr. Changra used to talk about service and sacrifice. It's a sacrifice that we have to make. If you are able to maybe help out to buy a mobile phone for a village champion, if you are able to buy a mobile phone for a polling station point person, these are the things that we are looking at, because we want to make sure that when the time comes, and even when someone was talking in terms of we now have a replacement. We now have our village champions. I was very happy when I conducted a sort of a quick survey in the rural areas from different branches, to find that the village champions are actually aware of what they are supposed to do. But the only problem that they have is they don't have enough resources to actually carry out their work. So, but anyway, thank you very much. I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Baba Mateu, and tinonzwa kudziirwa kana vanhu vakuru vari pakati pedu. Thank you so much. I will move on to Tino. After Mkoma Tino, the next speakers will be giving their concluding remarks. Over to you, Mkoma Tino.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maifa and Mkoma Denford for hosting this space, and everyone who managed to attend this space. Thank you very much to give us this opportunity so that we can share these ideas, and as we are preparing for the elections. Let me start by commenting on a very good question that was asked by Brother Denford, which he asked to my brother Smarters before he left, saying that ZANU-PF, they had that ZEC and the ZANU-PF, they're colluding to register people in their rallies. So for me, it's something that is not, that we can say it's not true, but it might be something that is actually, it should be very true that they are doing that. But that is not my concern, and that is not actually my worry as well. So I just wanted to say, for those people who say elections, they're not going to work, why do ZANU-PF continue doing that kind of a thing to register people to vote when they already knew that they win the elections already without it. So which means voting is, they know that voting is very important. So if they don't have people which are in their numbers, which they support them, so which means they are also afraid that this election, they're gonna be voted out. So hence they try by all means to use the system to their favor so that they can register people that they perceive it's their supporters so that they can vote them to continue being in power. That's what my conclusion that I can just come up with. So which means it points to one point that voting is very important. So we should continue encouraging people to register to vote so that we can remove this ZANU-PF government. If we don't register our people to vote, then it's not going to be a good scenario for us. What if ZANU-PF come up and then do those kind of media reforms, because they already knew that they win, because people, they already said they're boycotting those elections. Where are we going to stand? We will be not having any foot to stand on if that kind of a scenario happens. So it's good for us to continue register people to vote and preparing for those elections. And then I come to the topic that we have, that election without electoral reforms again, right? So, of course, ZANU-PF is not going to implement these electoral reforms. That we need to understand. Everyone who is here in this space, we know very well that ZANU-PF is not going to reform itself and to be reformed so that they can be out of power. With all this kind of looting that they are doing, with all this kind of benefits from what they are getting from this, from benefiting from the state power. So obviously they are not going to reform. So we need to devise methods like this ones, like to encourage people to vote. This is the only solution that we have. If we look at how the incarceration of Jacob Ngarivume and the continued incarceration of Job Sikala, it only points to one thing, that ZANU-PF, they are actually afraid of these elections. So they are trying to provoke people so that people, they go into the streets, people, they do all this kind of sort of things. And once that happens, they will find a reason to militarize the state, possibly to call for a state of emergency to suspend the elections, because that's what exactly they are trying to do. In finance, we have a concept that we call if a company is attractable, and then there are some people that want to do a hostile takeover, and they know that very well that there is a takeover that is coming. They employ a concept that we call, they take what we call a poison pill. So a poison pill, it's something that is which is not something that is good, which is which is gonna like make that company very unattractive to everyone, to avoid that takeover. So for me, this is what actually exactly what ZANU-PF is doing. They see that the opposition is coming for them, and we are going to win. They are going to be defeated on this election. So they are taking the poison pill, so that when they take this poison pill, everyone is not gonna be interested with it. That's why some people, they are calling to say elections are not working, elections, they're not going to do this and what. So people, they are being turned off to have all this kind of electoral process, and that's why some, they start saying that it's because of this tactic which is ZANU-PF is employing by taking what we call the poison pill. So we need to resist that, and we need to continue encouraging people to register to vote. And then we come to us as well, who are vying for change, who want things to be sorted. this thing, yes, we know once we encourage people to vote, once we do all these kind of things, it's not enough. We need also to come, because elections and to take this power, it needs resources. So we need also to start mobilizing these resources, because if we don't have we might register as many people as we can, especially in those rural areas or wherever in our constituencies. If we don't have polling agents, if we don't have people that are going to be there during that election day to man these ballot boxes, ZANU-PF is going to be easy for them again to rig. So we need to mobilize the resources as well. So it is our duty to make sure that we have enough polling agents. It's our duty to make sure that when our leaders are calling for saying we need some resources, can we maybe make some donations? Let's just try by all means, the little that we have, we give it to our leaders, so that we help those MPs that are going, our councillors, so that they can have the resources to make sure that they can protect that vote. If we don't have that, then we are also, it's going to be a very big problem, and it's going to be easy for our opponent, because as we know, our opponent has a lot of resources, they have a lot of money that they have on their side, so they can use those resources to muzzle into power. And us, we're gonna be we're not going to prevail on that kind of a scenario. So we need resources as well. So it is our duty also to make sure that we empower our party with those resources. This is in line with if we look at it, some they might say that we are not going to win. Yes, let's say we fail to win, but it is very, very important for us to make sure that we have a majority in parliament. Because if we don't have that majority in parliament, what it means is ZANU-PF, they're gonna continue changing our laws, changing the constitution. Even it's gonna be difficult for us in the future even to take to do those electoral reforms. There will be no electoral reforms to talk about once ZANU-PF they prevail in parliament, once they hold that two-thirds majority in parliament. There will be no electoral reforms in future. Then we forget and smile about that. So it is our duty also to make sure that we have the people in parliament. Those people in parliament, that means we also have resources with our political party. It have resources in future, that we are not going to continue making these donations to the political party, because we'll be still having some resources. That is the reason why ZANU-PF, after the 2018, they take MDC Alliance from Advocate Nelson Chamisa, our president, to give it to Monzora, because they wanted to choke him with resources so that he don't have money to prepare for these coming elections. That was the intention. So we need to make sure that we continue having MPs that are gonna also benefit from the from the parliamentary fund that is gonna be given for the political party funding, so that we remain having it. So this is very important, that we need to continue pushing for that. So if we don't go for elections like what other people are saying, then that's what exactly ZANU-PF wants us to fall into. So that will be the end of us. So that's what I just wanted to say there, Brother Denford and Dr. Maifai. Thank you very much, everyone, for giving me this opportunity to listen to my submission. Thank you.
So thank you, Mukoma Tino. But before you go, I know we are about to finish our space. And I understand you are going to be having your special space tomorrow about, I wouldn't want to preempt. This opportunity.
Sorry, Comma Denford. It's in next week, not tomorrow.
Oh, okay, it's okay.
Yeah,
I thought
next week. Thanks.
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you very much. So let's go to Mkoma champion. After which we'll go to Mambo Soswe as we round up our program. Thank you. Mkoma champion, are you there? Okay. If Mkoma champion is not there, Mambo Soswe, can you give us your closing remarks before we close?
Thank you, my brother Denford. I think this space has made it abundantly clear that irregardless of what ZANU-PF continues to do in as far as electoral reforms are concerned, we are going to go for elections. And we as the citizens, we the people, have to be prepared to fight, to play our part, to do whatever we can. And you as a person, find a role that you play, plug in some way so that we ensure victory in 2023. I think one thing that we need to be grateful for is what President Chamisa has done. I think he has given us the necessary ingredients for total victory in 2023. Just the fact that he has opened up the movement to the citizens, given back power to the citizens, taken away power from the political actors, from the political leadership, and given it to the people. That's a huge thing. Any struggle is won by people. It's won by the support of the people. ZANU-PF won, or we won the liberation struggle, not because we had superior weapons, not because we are superior in tactical ideas, but because we had the support of the majority. Right now, President Chamisa has brought back the majority, the support of the majority to Triple C by just saying this is a citizen movement. If you are seeing what is happening in the rural areas, even here in the diaspora, we have seen an increased amount of people that have come, that are joining, that are plugging in with resources, because they feel welcome. Before there'll be this red tape, this gatekeeping, people failing to do what they needed to do because there was this hierarchy, there was this leader, and I think Ndara Mateo will tell you what is happening in the rural areas right now. That people, for the first time ever, I've never seen it anyway. You read the history books. There's never been a situation where people are given an opportunity to choose leaders, to choose their representatives from urban councils to parliamentary to the presidential candidate at street level, at village level. Pa street vanhu vonzi garai pasi mutaurirane kuti wamuri kuda kuti akumirire as a councillor ndiani, wamuri kuda kuti akumirire as a parliamentarian ndiani, wamuri kuda muno muna 5 street kuno kumabvuku ndiani wamuda kuti aite president at street level. It has never happened. Woenda kumusha, kumusha, pamusha, because at every village there is a village point person. Just like we have a street point person in cities, we have a village point person. They gather, they talk, they caucus, and they come up with a candidate. I mean, that's the most transparent way of choosing representatives, and they have a chance, an opportunity to speak, to talk. This councillor was corrupt. We don't want him. Look what he did. And I pray to God that the councillors that were corrupt are going to be taken off. The members of parliament that we had, are also going to be taken off because they're not speaking in parliament, especially those that never spoke in parliament. I was interviewing one of the parliamentarians from Tare. I asked him, you were a parliamentarian for for 20 years, 4 terms. Have you seen a situation where someone has never spoken, for a whole year in parliament? And he confirmed that. We had people like that. So these people are definitely going to be removed by the people, not by President Chamisa, not by the party leadership, but people know, people see what you have been doing. If you're not coming back to the people, people are going to get rid of you. If you were corrupt, if you were that councillor that came into council and you were walking, you had a bicycle, now we have 4 cars, state-of-the-art vehicles, you now have a mansion. People are seeing you because they live with you. They are your neighbors. They see that this person has just started amassing wealth. Where did he get that from? I'm saying this because I'm informed that these are the discussions that are going on when people are discussing at street level. So I'm saying we have been given, the tools, the strategies. They've also been given by the president, by the party leadership. You talk of the Mugwazo that we're running with. We are still running with it. We have penetrated the rural areas. We have penetrated the rural areas in a manner that ZANU-PF is even shocked right now. That's the reason why they're running scared. That's the reason why Emerson Mnangagwa is delaying to announce the election day, because he knows he's going to lose this election. That's for sure. And it's because of some of these strategies. 1+5, that 1+5 strategy that President Chamisa was talking about. It's not only a strategy for voter registration. It's also a strategy that you can use now. It's a tool that you can use now just to educate your people, just to tell your people that this is what is happening. All those corrupt activities, the gold mafia and the chrome mafia that we are now hearing about, use that, use the 1+5. Just make sure that you are here, you talk to 5 people, you talk to a few people in Zimbabwe, and educate them and tell them that this is what is happening. Our country is on its knees, not because of sanctions, but because of looting, because of massive corruption that is going on. So you can still use that 1+5. Burumango strategy. A lot of people don't know about it. So talk about it. Tell the people in the rural areas, tell the people in that they know about that aufani kungorohwa nevanhu vezanu nekuti waramba kuenda kurali. Enda kurali yacho iyoyo. Kana kuchipiwa chikafu, enda unopiwa chikafu chacho ichocho. Kana zichinzi unofanira kunge uine kadhi reZANU-PF, tora kadhi reZANU-PF unopiwa munda, tora kadhi reZANU-PF unopiwa mbeu iri kupiwa vamwe. That's a strategy. So we have all the tools. We have the necessary ingredients for us, to win 2023. All we need to do right now is for us to play our part. Not that I'm minimizing what you have already done, especially you people in the diaspora. In my 20 years in the diaspora, I've never seen such involvement of the people in the diaspora. We have worked. You guys have worked. There is no history of Zimbabwe that will be written and the people in the diaspora will not be talked about. We have done a lot. So the key word then is more. Let's do more so that we just cross these 4 months. We're only left with 4 months. So let's do the best that we can, find something that you can do. If it is donating to the fundraisers that are going on, keep donating to the women task force, keep donating to the youth task force, keep donating to the call to act fundraiser, keep donating to the various fundraisers that are going on in the UK. I know UK is an election fundraiser. Here in North America, we also have an internal fundraiser that is to date raised over $20,000 that we are keeping for the elections. Find somewhere where you plug in so that you'll be able to say, I did this, I did that. You may not be able to go and vote or register to vote, but there is a lot that you can do, especially in terms of voter education. I'm big on education, maybe because of my history as a teacher. I'm big on education, that let's do what we can. ZEC is supposed to be doing voter education, but they deliberately never do that. They have a budget, they have millions of dollars budgeted for voter education. But have you ever seen anything in terms of an advert? You see them maybe a month or two before elections, they'll get one of the comedians to do a commercial, but that's all they'll do. So it means we are on our own in terms of voter education. We have to do our own voter education as a party, but you can also do your own voter education to your community as an individual. If we do that, I'm telling you, I have no doubt that we are going to win big if we act big. If we begin now, just 4 months, let's just begin to accelerate. Let's just begin, all of us, to get into that next gear. Let's double up our efforts so that all the efforts that we have put in the past 4 years don't go to naught. But victory is certain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mampusose, for your concluding remarks. Nkoma Champion, are you back for your concluding remarks? Nkoma Champion? Probably he's away from his gadget. Let me ask Baba Mateo to give his concluding remarks. Over to you, Baba Mateo.
Oh, sorry. Let me just say, those are the electoral reforms that are needed, but what needs to be done is what needs to be done, which is mobilizing and to go and vote without fear or favor. I would urge people not to be scared of the issue of reforms. Reforms are not going to come from our delinquent player, because we know that he is not even popular even to a lizard in the cave. So there is nothing to fear about. The only thing that people have to do is to make sure that that vote is defended well. Once that vote is defended, they are not going to put any spoiled paper there, and they are going to be embarrassed. And that's what is going to happen. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Nkoma Champion. And to you, Baba Mateo.
Oh, thank you very much. Just to conclude, I think I just want to re-emphasize the fact that we will not get electoral reforms under the current conditions with the current rulers. It is not going to happen. So therefore, it is really up to us to make sure that we conscientize our people, we ask them to register, we ask them to defend the vote, we ask them to make sure that they don't leave anybody behind on the day of voting. Because as it is right now, everybody, most people in the rural areas are now aware that they are not going anywhere with this government, and that this government just has to go. And what is left is like talking about the Burumango. Where I come from, they've said we are not even going to do that. If they bring in inputs, we'll crowd there, take the inputs, and go. But we are not going to attend their rallies, because we will just be giving them credence for nothing. So the people are so determined now more than ever before. I've never seen a determined Zimbabweans like I did this last time, just about 2 weeks ago, because now they realize that they will continue to suffer. This government is not going to change anything. Their lives will continue to be poor. They are going to continue to let the Mnangagwa and the elite make themselves rich using our own resources. And also, let us spread the word as much as possible. Let's talk about this gold mafia. Let's talk about this looting of our minerals. Let's talk about everything that is happening. When we make discussions, before you actually say you have someone that you are actually send money to go and ask them to go and lecture to other people that the situation has to change, that you cannot continue to feed them anymore, that it is up to the people to liberate themselves. Because if we don't let them know, they will continue to expect us to do everything for themselves, for them. So let us continue to fight. Let us continue to give resources like the Mambo Sose was saying just now. It is very important. We should realize that our party has no money and our party cannot survive. But let me tell you what, interesting thing is, if we can only get 10% of the resources that ZANU-PF has got, we will have done, we will sweep to victory. That I can assure you. If you can only get 10%, just 10% of what they've got, we will sweep to victory because we have got the resources. The people are our most pressured, precious resources. They are there and they are ready, and all they want is a little bit of a push, and then we will be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Baba Mateo, for your concluding remarks. I want to thank everyone in this space, all the listeners, and all the speakers who gave powerful submissions, and the host for creating time for us to meet as a family, as Zimbabweans, to see the way forward as far as electoral reforms are concerned. Yes, chunu chedu. Let's not be discouraged. Let's encourage people to vote, regardless of irregularities. We'll make it. And I encourage everyone to tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. Zimbabwean time and 10 a.m. US Eastern time. Thank you so much. We appreciate your contributions, and we wish everybody a pleasant week, and let's encourage people to tune in to Change Radio, to the Facebook page, and I encourage everybody to like and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is called Reshaping Zimbabwe, because once we subscribe, we can share it with families. Vanzwewo kuti zviri kuitika zvii, vamwe news hadzisviki ikoko, uye some people would have missed this space because of other commitments. I also want to encourage everybody to join the prayer in about 2 hours time, 7:30 UK time, where we pray for Zimbabwe every day. Let's join Mazmai and Mike Kuku there. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, host.
Mazvita enyu Dr. Maifa, tinotenda vese vauya vachitaura paprogram ino, tinotenda vateereri vedu vari paprogram ino. Tinoda kungoshuvira kuti deno Zimbabwe ikaenda pane imwe level kubva patiri. Tinoziva futi kuti pamadiscussions atinenge tichiita pane vamwe vanouya vaine pfungwa dzisiri dzekuti tibudirire kana tienderere mberi tichida kuti vanhu vanovhota kuitira kuti change iitike mukati menyika. Asi hazvisiri izvozvo zvinodzorera mashure kuti tirambe tichinoendera mberi neprogramu yedu. Inini pfungwa dzangu ndedzekuti pane vese vanoenda kuma-progressive spaces, tinenge tichida kuti tibate nzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana dzenyika. Then kuri zvichiita, and the reason inoita kuti tirekode maspaces aya inyaya yekuti vanhu vakawanda vanenge vasina kupinda live vakwanise kuva vanozoteerera vachinzwa, asi vashoma vanoenda paTwitter. Tinenge tichishandisa kana kuti munhu anenge akasununguka achiti maspaces akaita saiwo aya oenda pashare paya, oenda kunana WhatsApp inowanikwa nyange kuzumba maramba pfungwe, inowanikwa kubhoyera, inowanikwa kwaRusape, kupi kwese kwese ikoko. Muchiendesa maprograms akaita sa not only this space but maspaces amunoona kuti ndiwo tongoti maspaces anoitika. Vazhinji vedu kumamisha kuZimbabwe vamwe vacho vaendi paTwitter, asi zvizhinji madiscussions atinoita tinenge tichimaitira paTwitter iwaya. Saka if you only confine this discussion kune vanhu vashoma vanenge vaenda paspace, it means message has kuenda kune vanhu vakawanda. So my wish and my plea to everybody is to do this. Let's make use of different platforms there, the social media, like Dr. Maifa has just said. The reason for us to make sure that we diversify the way in which we disseminate our information is in order for everybody, or for almost everybody, to hear what we are talking about, only in order for people to really make a difference as we go to the next election. But thank you very much to everybody that is just tuned in, and we hope that everybody, or everybody who has got time, will also come in at the same time next week, as we delve again into another topic that is going to be discussing things that can make Zimbabwe change again for a positive. But I want to thank everybody. God bless everybody who is